even to the point of discussing his association with death squads. And the Filipino public decided this was the man to clean up your country. So in political terms, it seems to me you're bashing your head against a brick wall.
Well, I'm not about to give up this, even in the Philippines. It will take some time because the propaganda of the Duterte administration is getting in the way of the flow of information or the flow of the truth to the public. So it will take a little time, but his numbers continue to go down. And I'm quite confident towards the end of the year, his numbers would be way below 50 by then.
Yeah, I asked you earlier if you were a Democrat, and I think you feel you are, but let's look at your track record. You twice tried to mount coups against an elected Filipino president. In that case, it was Mrs. Arroyo. Back in 2003, you had an abortive coup attempt which lasted, well, let's face it, only a day. It wasn't very successful, and then even more, to many Filipinos, even more pathetically, you made another attempt to get her out in 2007, and you ended up in prison for the best part of 7 years. Are you thinking that a coup is a legitimate response again to the Philippines' current political situation?
Definitely not. I believe we have enough remedies for a problem like Duterte. But let me just go back to the premise. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo assumed power back in 2001 through a coup. They tried to cover it up with some semblance of constitutionality, but we know for a fact that she assumed power, assumed office via coup. Now, Duterte, in Duterte's case, we have, as I mentioned, legal remedies within the Constitution and even part of the international laws like the ICC that you can resort to resolve or rectify this anomaly that is Duterte.
Yeah, well, okay, so you say no coup on this occasion, we'll use the law. You've already been involved in the filing of an impeachment complaint. That was rejected by the Justice Committee of the House of Representatives, so that appears to be going nowhere. And you've also been involved in the call to have the International Criminal Court in The Hague examine whether Mr. Duterte has committed crimes against humanity. But there's absolutely no indication that I can see that the ICC is prepared to pick up your case. So I'm not sure where your faith in the law, both national and international, is actually taking you.
Well, I'm quite confident that the ICC would take up the case because it falls right at the center of the essence of the ICC. And probably by in a few months, we'll see some developments. Now, as far as the impeachment is concerned, next year, we can also, again, file an impeachment case against Mr. Duterte if we still have a democracy by then. Because I believe Duterte at some point will install a revolutionary government via martial law because that's the only way, that's the only kind of governance that he knows. As you mentioned, in Davao City, he ruled like a tyrant, a king, a whimsical king at that. So that's the world that he lives in. That's why he can't deal with active members of the opposition. He cannot deal with the objective media, both local and foreign media.
Do you feel safe, Mr. Trillanes, saying these kinds of things, given what you also say about Mr. Duterte's style and character?
Well, there are things that one must do as a public servant, and this is not the first time that I went up against a sitting president, a sitting vice president, and a very powerful Senate president. So I believe I'm just being consistent, regardless of the dangers that I could probably face.
Well, yeah, you spent 7 years in prison. You're thinking you might be spending a few more years in prison before too long.
Probably the minions of Duterte have been trying to fabricate cases against me, but so far nothing has worked.
You're talking to me from Manila, and there is no doubt that in some ways Duterte represents a movement in the Philippines to to change the way politics works. He's talked about imperial Manila. He says the country has never been governed by people who really have the best interests of the poor and the disadvantaged at heart. And in particular, he says the country's never been governed before by someone from Mindanao who is not obsessed with looking after the elite and the oligarchs based in Manila. He has a point, doesn't he? If you look at his economic program, he is committed to a radical poverty elimination program, which is going to raise up the poorest Filipinos, particularly in those neglected areas in the south of the country. And that appeals to many people.
Well, that's the campaign rhetoric. But 1 year from his election into office up to this point, he has yet to actually come up with an economic program for the poor. And in